I didn't realize I was going to make the freaking Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses a staple of the summer for me, but it's getting bright. It's getting freaking bright. I kind of feel like a punk if I'm talking with the glasses on, but it's I don't want to drive around squinting either. But plan for today with chest. Go nuts. Go nuts in a different way. Go nuts in a way I have not done before, or at least recently. So my last couple chest days, heavy pressing, Smith barbell machine press, plate loaded, whatever, and then flies as a finisher. So today I think I want to flip that approach upside freaking down. Start with more kind of squeezing, burning, just kind of like preemptive isn't the word, just sort of pump, squeezing, burning sets, so I'm not going to be loading the full cable stack on either side doing flies. Like, it'll be within reason, and just kind of burning out, building up fatigue that way. So instead of like jumping straight to a big ass squat, doing leg extensions first, pre-exhausting in a way, and then by the time I do move on to a heavy press, I'm already kind of firing in all cylinders. Because I used to think, I just had a whole talk about this in the leg day I posted yesterday when I'm talking about quads. I used to think start with heavy squats, start with heavy leg press, then move on to more isolation, squeezing movements like leg extension later. But now I like it the opposite, right? I want to start with a few sets of leg extensions to get my quads warmed up and primed and just ready to go. And then by the time I move on to a leg press, even if it's heavy, I don't feel weak. I almost just feel more ready to rep it out. I mean, I've done sets of leg press where the second set, the weight felt lighter than the first one, because after having finished the first set where my quads were a little colder, now they're a bit more warm, So that's, it's just a lot of kind of playing by ear, or really sort of playing by feel, right? I think a lot of our sort of ideologies about working out, it's like, okay, how do I do exactly what I need to do and write it down on paper and have it all perfectly planned, and then just meet the expectations of that workout plan and do it like that, because it's very comfortable to do things like that. We're used to, okay, how do I do something? Let me look up a YouTube tutorial, follow it to a T, and then now I know how to do it, right? I did the same, I did the same shit when I had to freaking swap my flat tire. I don't know where the hell the jack goes underneath the frame of the Camry, and it's like, oh, look at that, easy peasy, like just anything like that. But working out, there's just so many angles to it. You can't exactly approach it with just an on paper monkey see, monkey do logic. So that's where I'm always kind of a little bit anti total perfect plan, because that plan can be subject to change. If I come in today and, like, for whatever reason my chest is just not feeling it, for who's to say, maybe my shoulder's a little tense or just something, maybe I slept weird, then I'm going to go about that lift in a different way than I would if I felt extra strong and just extra fresh and ready to go. So I kind of want to wait until I'm in the gym actually touching the weights and feeling tension on my body, and just deciding then, okay, maybe I shouldn't do anything really heavy today. Maybe my elbow's feeling a little let's back off, do some more fly squeezing based stuff, have more of a kind of a lighter, at least like muscular tension style workout, and then focus more on maybe intensity of the squeeze and burn on maybe a little more volume of sets, right? Because let's say I really hurt my shoulder and I can only do light flies, I would do more sets than I would normally do if all I was doing was like really heavy pressing, because each of those pressing sets would be like way more damaging than a light set of flies, So all that's to say is just try to get in tune with whatever muscle you're hitting on that day and approach the lift accordingly. But I can guarantee within 30 to 40 minutes of warming up, I will be fully pumped, posed down, and then on my way back to eat something. There's a big ass field of just tall grass around where I live, and it's hitting me hard with the pollen. Like, I was dying yesterday because we were outside a lot, and just sneezing all over the freaking place. When I was younger, my allergies would get so bad that like my eyes would be freaking like almost swollen shut. Like not that bad, but like bad enough, you know. So now I must just be freaking, for whatever reason, just pollen central around here. Hopefully that finishes up soon. I don't want to be cooped up inside all day, but I also don't want to give myself a freaking, well, I don't think I could ever go into anaphylactic shock from pollen allergies, but I still don't want to be sitting here, you know, sniffling my freaking butt off all day. But now we're talking about that. That's unrelated to the lift. So let's get started. So, plan is to start flies like I was kind of planning before, but I kind of had pec deck in my mind, but I think it might be too strong. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm too strong. Like the pec deck stack fresh, not a ton of load, if you know what I'm saying. But cables like this is enough. Like I'm never gonna go more than probably half the stack. Well, yeah, just about half the stack here on any kind of cable fly, at least not that often. So a little bit bent over, still kind of regular in front of the body fly though. I'm not going like down here in front of my hips. I'm still kind of going in front of my torso here. But yeah, this one I want to get extra deep in the stretch on top. So I really want to almost like relax my pecs to the point where they're just being stretched out up here, and then keep transitioning deep, loose, kind of relaxed stretch, and then an extra hard squeeze and hold. And I said this yesterday for legs when I was doing leg extensions. I'm not just trying to do a rep, touch my hands and go back. Right here at this sort of point of, you know, no more motion, because obviously my hands can't go through each other. And I've never been a fan of like the cross. I don't know, that always felt kind of silly to me. Maybe I'm missing out, but either way, when I get here to the, you know, the end of the movement, I still want an extra little squeeze, just so I can get a little extra out of every rep. And I promise it does add up in your pump on a like lift basis. You know, I've said this like 30 times by now. It's not like, oh, it's going to result in marginal, like your lifts will improve if you're a little more just into it every rep. And instead of just doing them at the top of every one, you have a little extra squeeze. So that's what I'm aiming for here. Come on. I don't have Wi-Fi in here, so even the songs take a little bit to load. All right. Okay. Two more of those, and then I'll move on to something else. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay, one more. I'll go a little heavier for this one, but same as before. And just sitting there, I'll see with this one, I think I really want to hold the stretch position a little longer. But do not fucking disrespect, or freaking disrespect rather, the squeeze, right? The stretch has been getting so much love in terms of like, oh, dude, it's all about the stretch, man. Look, I've been seeing the silliest sets scrolling on my phone. I'm talking like just... If it works, obviously I have no argument, because if you're making gains, you're good. So I guess I'm just trying to say, make sure you're making gains. And if not, you got to change something. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my god, okay. Holy crap. Okay, that's good. Now the question is, do I move on to another fly on the pec deck or do a press? Oh, that was about a sneeze. Give me a second to decide. It's been a while since the 150s have gotten any freaking love. So warming up to the 130s, I feel pretty freaking good. So this was going to be a heavier set, of course, but it's not going to be so nasty, right? I think I have, I've overstayed my welcome, in a sense, of just picking up something crazy heavy and like doing extra quick reps. For one thing, it's just not as good of a set, because you're kind of relying on the spring action of your muscle rather than the actual kind of contraction, if you will, right? Because I mean, I'm going to get way more out of the set of curling even a 25-pound dumbbell, sitting going extra slow, than I would taking like a 50 and really just ripping it like a total fool. You know, obviously there's a middle ground of still going heavy, but not doing like a nasty set, right? Obviously it's not always a black and white sort of approach, because if you take the light side to its extreme, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Sit here with no weight and just flex a bunch of times, right? That's silly too. But yeah, so I think at least for now, the 150s are a good call. There's space right here though. 160, 70, 80, 90. I don't think 200s would ever happen, at least not in the super near future. But 150s are heavy enough. So give me a second to get in the zone and move these things around. Oh, goodness. Okay. Oh, one more. Okay. No more of these. Let's move on. Those are good though. Especially after doing those flies first. Nice. Full stack. I want to kind of pull my shoulders back, keep my front delts out of this as much as freaking possible. Oh. Okay. One more. Okay. 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 Oh my goodness. Let's finish with some cable pressing, and I think that'll be it. The same weight that I was doing before with those flies, hold, or kind of a hold in the stretch, good hold in the squeeze as well. Same weight, and really instead of just doing the flies, I'll take one step, actually yeah, just a little step forward, and instead of flies, I'll just finish with some kind of squeezing presses. And these are good because with the cable, you can kind of sort of tweak the range of motion or the sort of effectiveness of the weight, right? Because if I'm fresh and I want it to be a little heavier, I might reach a little deeper out here in the top of the press, make a little more of a fly stretch at the top, and then come in from a wider angle. And then as I begin to get weaker, I can keep my hands a little closer to my body, right? Which is gonna be easier to push, you know? What's an easier push-up? Actually, I guess that kind of similar difficulty, but what are you gonna be stronger on? You know, close grip bench, or at least moderate, or like way wide out here, right? You gotta exert so much more force against this, you know, literal arm of your arm. Being a little closer is you're just stronger. It's like holding a 45-pound plate right up against you or out in front of you, right? That's gonna be a bit more heft. So I'm just gonna go nuts, pump up my chest as much as possible, then we can pose down. All right. Okay. All right. Let's set up the lights. Let me get this freaking garage door shut. Let's see how we're looking after those, what, 8 sets or so? All right, so I was gonna pose down over there next to the sort of window lighting, but it wasn't that good. So instead, I think right here is a little bit better. Actually, let me Let me make sure I'm not in the freaking, crack of the mirror. There we go. Now we're working with something. But yeah, that was a good one. So let's recount. Let's see how many sets actually happened. So 1, 2, 3 sets of cable flies, 2 sets of dumbbells, 2 sets of pec deck, and then 1 set over here. That's 7? Oh, I could have sworn I did more than 7. But either way, enough, right? Got a good squeeze, stretch with those cables in the beginning, and then hefty dumbbells. That's good. So overall, kind of feeling my chest rather bulbous. So let's just make sure all the poses reflect that. Okay. So I'm not a posing coach, of course, but I will say this in terms of your chest or your side chest. If you're trying to, you don't know what you're doing. I see a lot of this. Like shoulder in, crunched. And obviously I'm taking the words straight out of the freaking, the beast's mouth here. But it's like you got to open up, get big. Don't shrink down, like really reach out there. So if you're trying to make yourself look wide on top in a side shot, what do? Right? Obviously hips sideways, and then turn as much as possible and spread your shoulders out, right? So now it's like, I may as well be sitting right here, but I've just kind of rotated myself. So it makes my shoulders look extra wide and my waist a little more trim. So if you see anybody doing a little bit of this, nah, man, pull that thing back. But the rest of it's kind of just personal preference, I think it's a little silly. Obviously, like a real posing coach knows what they're doing. But some guys, they'll tell you to pose a certain way, but it's just because of a convention that they've heard that they're now just like perpetuating, I would think that how to make yourself look cooler. So, sometimes guys want to sit way sideways and make their chest like pop out more, aiming for like sort of 3D look. That can be fucking cool too, right? So if somebody's dogging you on you for how you're doing something, don't freak. Maybe take their critique for what it is. But if somebody's just being mean for no reason, ask them to see their side chest. Ask them to comment a picture of their side chest and see what happens after that. But either way, good lift. Now I got to go home and freaking eat something. 270 is still the goal-ish for September, August-ish. So I'm gonna keep grubbing. All right, the microphone might bug out, so if I see it dies, I guess that'll just be the end of it. But that was a good chest day, and very different than my typical approach. I've got that habit of starting with those dumbbells first, but I think that those 2 sets of dumbbell bench were better because of having done the cable flies / kind of cable squeezes first, and then moving on to them, because it's this is what I really hate to see. It's guys where they treat taking a set to failure, like they say it's like as though it's just getting a sip of water or tying your shoe. It's like no, man, because we're not so robotic as that, right? The throttle or the pedal in your mind to get yourself to really push something at maximum exertion, it's not so simple as just turning it on and off, right? So you really got to kind of dig deep. It's sort of because it's as much of a mental as it is a physical thing, so that's where I think that if you lift for long enough, you sort of develop a callousness to the uncomfortability of a set where it does get easier for you to really, push yourself to that 90%, 95% effort range. I do think that 100% is kind of unattainable in a way, because even if, I'm relatively certain, this is kind of what I think about it, that if you were to somehow connect electrodes to my chest or something, or give me like a Neuralink where it would manually contract my chest beyond what my mental signals or my brain can actually send down, because it's going to react with kind of a pain response as I'm doing the set, which is going to want me to kind of chill out and relax and put it down, because I mean your body never wants to be in a stressed state like that. So if I was kind of controlled robotically, I would think I'd be able to go, get an extra couple of reps, if not an extra like many reps, right? As though my my pecs are capable of so much, and I can only kind of achieve a certain amount of that actual exertion before almost my brain and my whole sort of central nervous system gives up first. So since that's how I think about it, I don't like the idea of doing like working sets like that. Like if I'm doing dumbbell bench and I did just like 10 good reps and then put it down, instead of going for those extra 3 or it was the first set like 12 or so. But it's like a lot of guys now, they're saying just do the 8, just do 9. You can do 4 more, but don't do those because you already got enough out of the set for the 8. But if I already think that my chest could do more in that set, like physically, and I'm just not capable of even reaching that level, then why would I want to leave more on the table? I'm not saying that less, it's kind of a hard descriptor, because I don't want to say less intense sets, right? Because you can still do good pumping sets where it's not total failure and it's a good set. I mean, if I'm doing curls, let's say I've got an arm day and I did some heavy failure sets in the beginning, now I'm just about finished. I mean, I could grab the 30s and just do like a couple 10 reps, like, pump sets, not to total failure, but still get something out of them. I'm not saying that every set has to be total failure, but for most of your working sets, it's kind of, I think that's the performance of the working out. It's just pushing yourself like that, because if you don't give yourself a stimulus that's intense enough to force a bodily response, which from the training is going to be over recovering, gaining new muscle, getting bigger, and just getting stronger as well, then you're never going to progress. Nobody is going to become a better golfer if you never practice. Nobody's going to become a better rally car driver if they never practice and they don't improve their skills. They don't actually push themselves to get better. So if your workouts are all the exact same intensity, the exact same level of exertion, and you're just doing the same weights, the same everything over time, and you're not trying to bring it every lift, gains will become elusive. And that's I've said this a lot, but that's where guys will it's like is it the first stage of grief? I'm not sure. Let's make up my own new set. It's the 5 stages of plateau. The 5 stages of plateauedness. The first one's the same. Denial. Gains kind of slowed down, not getting as big. It's we'll see. I'll just break out of it. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Not thinking okay, I got to change something about my training to keep breaking through. Just what I've been doing has worked. If I keep doing it, it'll just somehow work later. I've got a whole set of keys in here. These keys are like my lift and my training. Eventually it'll open the door if I just keep trying enough of the same ones, right? That's you're like, it's like, oh, this thing's padlocked, and you keep entering the exact same 4-digit code, thinking that somehow if you do the same 1, 2, 3, 4 enter, it'll just open by doing the same thing. All right, so stage 1, denial. All right, stage 2, bargaining. I'm starting to think I'm just copying the real ones, but whatever. It's like, oh well, it's I've been kind of busy. Somebody asks them okay, well, what's your training like? Have you been really hitting it every day? Have you been doing your cardio? Well, yeah, it's right. The excuse stage, and then it turns into a little bit of a violent stage 3 where it's blaming. It's like, oh, dude, well, these it's because these guys get to spend more time on it, or these guys I don't know, I don't want to restrict my diet with my calories, or just like whatever, and it's very rare that people get to the stage of not acceptance, but I kind of mean just like a call to action to change their training, right? Because I've always been kind of I'll always think about it kind of mathematically in a way, right? So if your lift is or if your training is at this level and your calories are at this level, and your consistency is at this level, then when you add all those things up together, it's going to equal the results that you get, right? So if somebody never works out, doesn't count their calories, not getting really good sleep, that equation equals 0 gains. If somebody works out pretty consistently, 4 times a week, they don't really worry about their sleep, they don't worry about their diet, like they just, you just want to train and then not worry about it, which is totally legit. Frankly, having a good gym routine on its own is a massive step forward from no physical activity, right? So I'm not trying to knock that. So if you're consistent, your gains will reflect that. You're going to have better results. And if you just increase all of those variables, the training intensity, the consistency, working on your diet a little bit, maybe focusing more on like, I don't even want to say whole foods, just have a good lifting diet, and what I mean by that is get your protein in, get enough carbs to actually like be in a good calorie intake to fuel your workouts and to fuel your recovery, and don't overdo it, up or down. If you don't eat enough, you won't grow. If you eat too much, you're going to start gaining body fat at a continuous rate, which none of us want to do, right? It's all about that sweet spot in between of, getting gains, not getting too soft. So, it just makes sense, man, right? You've got, let's really write out the equation here. You got training, variable T, consistency, variable C, diet, variable D, and sleep, variable S, right? So the higher of a multiple all those get, the bigger the gains number is going to be at the end, right? So that's how I think about it. So if you know somebody who doesn't lift a ton, shit, man. And by a ton, I mean like lift consistency a lot, really show up and brings it, their gains will reflect that. And those are really the biggest ones. Those 4, even if I did the exact same workouts, every lift on repeat, and even just like basic movements, only 2 movements per body part, I think I would still make progress if everything else was in order. Consistency, intensity, diet, actually eating enough food, my recovery, gains will just happen, So that's my, that's kind of why I think we're in a weird, honestly, we're in a weird time in fitness right now. I think we had like a peak. There's a real big peak in October when Chris won the Olympia. That was absolutely freaking insane. So we'll see what happens. But either way, I gotta go home, get some grub into my system, post the leg day, which I guess would have come out yesterday, so it doesn't really matter for you, and then get ready for back tomorrow. And with this bulk, I'm not gonna get too soft. I do not want to get too soft on this one, because of course I want to get bigger, I want to make gains, right? But if I get too soft, it's gonna take a while to really dial down, So there's I'm probably not gonna remember. I'll put it on my story again. The transformation from like October of last year to mid-January of this year, which was pretty much that was a nasty ass change from fully bulked to cut. So that's where I think a lot of guys, it's not that they're afraid to bulk per se, it's more so an underlying maybe just lack of sort of belief that they'll be able to deal with the extra body fat that comes with a bulk, because it's not it's not negligible. If you get a little softer, it's going to take some actual effort to peel down, but it can be done. It's just a little bit of a chore, right? But it's like it's like having anything cool. Every guy who's got like a crazy cool old car that he restored or that he works on in the garage or whatever, they all need maintenance. The whole thing about working out, it's not just reaching a certain level and then you're good because you're just going to stay there forever, right? It's kind of a constant thing. So not to keep going on just like a little rant spiral, but this is one thing I always thought was the weirdest argument, because anybody who's not into working out, especially on like an Instagram comment section, everybody's got something to say about everything. But the logic of the non-lifter, sometimes if they're a little kind of like vindictive when they see somebody post something about working out, they love saying this. It's like, oh well, you're not gonna look like that in 30 years, man. You're not gonna look like that when you're old. Like, all right, I'm not old now. I'm not going to be this big forever, of course, but that's not the point. You know, the point's kind of enjoying it while it lasts, and that goes for everything. That's kind of a universal statement, if I say so my freaking self. But now I just need some food, shower off, probably get another air purifier for the house because of all the freaking pollen that keeps creeping in and messing with me, and then just keep going from there. So honestly, I don't know, maybe this bulk won't even last until September. September actually feels kind of long. I might cool it down a little earlier, maybe August, because what, it's early June now, so early July will be another month, early August will be 2 months from now, and then yeah, maybe another 3 months ish. We'll definitely get to off-season day 150. I think that'll I'll definitely hit up to there, but then we'll see. Well, we just have to see. So I'll see you tomorrow.